Most people talk about leadership like it's theory. I've lived it in the mud, the chaos, and the moments nobody writes about. This show is the truth, raw, unfiltered, and built for leaders who actually give a damn. If you're ready to grow, ready to own your own story, and ready to lead from the front, you're in the right place. Speak up, show up, lead. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Speak Up, Show Up, Lead. I'm here with my guest, Dan, and we'll talk to Dan here in a second. Before we get started, I do want to make sure that I put a plug in for my book, which is also incidentally called Speak Up, Show Up, Lead. This is my leadership lessons from going from civilian to military and all the way through. If that's something that interests you, go to Amazon.com, Speak Up, Show Up, Lead. I've got some good feedback on it, so make sure you go check it out. Dan, how you doing today?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing awesome. I'm excited to have this conversation, and like I was telling you before we got started with the call, this is the first time I've ever even talked to somebody who is a Seabee. So, I mean, this is kind of an interesting thing for me. But yeah, if you wouldn't mind, could you give an introduction to the audience real quick and tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course. I appreciate the opportunity to come on here and tell my story and give my transition story and time in the military. I joined when I was 19 years old in 99 and retired in 2019. In that 20-year process, it was did a lot, got married, had kids, doing all the things that everybody does. Deployed a few times over to Iraq, and I just had I had a really good time doing that, making sure that family was taken care of and all those things. So, yeah, I think it was pretty awesome.
Yeah. And, and again, you were a Seabee. And by the way, I have to say this to everybody because I had, I kind of had an idea of what they might be, but I didn't really look into this before. So Seabees, that's like the construction, demolition, and all that kind of world in the Navy. And it's so cool that I've met combat engineers in the Army, obviously, which is probably the most equivalent to what you did, but I've never actually met somebody who's done the job before. So I'm glad to have you on the show because that's something that you're the first one.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah. One of the reasons why I jumped on this podcast for today was, tomorrow is a Seabee birthday, 84 years of history of, 1942, the beginning of the Seabees and why we do what we do, where we came from, and the history. There's a lot of history involved. I take a lot of pride in the history and making sure people know and understand that there is a lot of history. And I can't tell you how many people that I talk to, they have no idea about they know about the military, they know about the Navy, but the Seabees have kind of been the forgotten stepchild, I guess, in the military or in the Navy at least. So.
Oh, we have somebody on here. His name is Tim Grease. He said he actually served with you in Iraq in 2003.
There's a lot of people that I'm friends with. It's all I love. That's what I do love about our small community is I know a lot of people, but not a ton. Veteran Racing Group, is that who we're
talking about? Yep. He's actually a friend of mine, but it happens more often than you would think that somebody tunes in that knows my guest.
Yeah.
And I just met this. Usually I just meet my guests within a couple of weeks before I have them on my podcast. But no, I know one of the things that we wanted to talk about today, Dan, is that transition story. Yeah. And then, kind of move that into what you're doing now and how you help people out in the world. And so if you wouldn't mind, can you tell us a little bit about how that went for you?
Yeah, transition was interesting. We talked about this a little bit before. The military is really good at pushing people in and making sure that they start really well and they go to their whatever trade school or MOS or rate, whatever you want to call it. They're really good at pushing people for that. the transition part, and it's no fault of their own. There's a lot of people getting ready to get out, and they have to, feed the machine and keeping people in. And what they do is I feel, my personal opinion is that they kind of just do a check in the box, and it's challenging. There's a lot of benefits that they don't talk about. There's a lot of benefits that, and it's depending on where you go, state to state is going to be a little bit different. But going through that process, starting the process, going to and doing your TAPS course at the beginning, making sure that, doing the resumes and making sure if you're going to file for a disability claim, making sure you have all of that process. So going through that was great. I had very fortunate opportunity where I was. We had a VA person that was there to kind of walk you through the steps in the process. So my transition was really good. I was fortunate again with my wife we were mill to mill. So my wife was a air traffic controller. So being able to transition out with her was awesome. So that was a big deal, making sure that we knew and had a plan together of what we were going to do kind of when we grow up. Thinking about those kind of things, trying to figure out what financially, where we're going to go, where we're going to retire, all of the things that, that you don't really think until you're at the end of your time.
Yeah.
It was a big shift.
Yeah, it is a shift. And, there's a lot of things that they should be telling us about. You mentioned benefits and stuff that are out there, but what about the programs that are out there? Not just the ones that help us through the hard times, but also that can kind of give us a sense of community. I mean, I don't even remember them talking about the DAV or the American Legion or the VFW or any of those things. I don't remember any of that stuff, but the connectivity is one thing that I know that, I've kind of started getting it back a lot in the past 3 years, but until then, there were a few years before that. And when you lose it, you don't just lose your connectivity, you start feeling lost. And then you start, our brains are kind of a crazy circus when we start getting in there and living in there. And so that turns into a really, really big problem, which is why we have so many problems with veterans and mental health issues.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, you kind of have you have your own identity. You come in with the military, you have your own identity. Going from civilian to the military, you kind of get that. And then transitioning out, you lose that sense of identity of what you are, who you are, what your purpose is. You leave that. A lot of the times, camaraderie. I talk to a lot of vets now. And the biggest thing is, I ask them all the time, hey, what's one thing you're going to miss about the military? And most people don't say, hey, I'm going to miss the job. They don't care about the job. It's the people that come with the job. It's the family, the brotherhood, the sisterhood that you build inside the military. That's the important things. Those are the things that are going to drive you outside. And if you have a good foundation of people that you know and trust, that you can communicate with outside of the military, I think that mentally can help you get out and transition, because you're by yourself transitioning out, but you're joining a group of people that have already done it.
Yeah.
And being, there's great programs out there. You mentioned DAV and VFW and American Legion and all of those great communities out there. So that all, reaching out and joining those groups before you get out and talking to other veterans before you get out, I think is important to just make sure that, you're still tied to that group of individuals. So you don't lose all of it,
No.
That's just part of it.
Well, and when we're in the military, we think that our job is probably the most important thing in the world. and we're always competing against requirements with other people in different jobs and all this other stuff. But the interesting thing that they don't tell you during transition either is that once you take off that uniform, whether you're retired or you just wore the uniform at one time and you're just a veteran, you're kind of part of a club. The moment you say that you served, it piques the interest of the other person that you're talking to, and you do still have that instant camaraderie. And it actually doesn't matter what your job was. People are still, because we lose our connectivity and our camaraderie and all those other things that you talked about, it is really a lot easier than a lot of people think to regain that connectivity, because there's a huge veteran audience almost everywhere you go. You just don't know it because we don't, but we do blend right in.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's being veteran, you see it all the time. I live in Texas, so we're a very veteran friendly state. It's I think it's amazing how many retired veterans there are here, active duty people that are here. So,
Well, I'm not surprised.
And understanding what's that.
I said, I'm not surprised. My goodness, if you go to a place like where you're at, or if you go to Hampton Roads, or if you go anywhere near Fort Benning, or if you go to Southern California, good Lord, there are military bases just everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, but that just kind of keeps you, it keeps me tied in just enough. I don't like to go on base just for my own personal things. But I do like that I have the access to, and I can go on to base if I need to. I can, talk to whoever I want to. I'm, not as involved with VFW as I should be. I think they're a great community, and, just doing things with other veterans, and keeping that brother and sisterhood alive. I think it's super important for your physical and for your mental health, mostly your mental health. So you don't lose that connection. It's a big connection. There's only a small percentage of the country has joined the military. Our veterans, we lose World War II veterans all the time. Vietnam vets are are the next group of people that we'll end up losing. But keeping that tradition alive. There's a lot of traditions in the military that we have that are positive. Some that we've gotten rid of a majority of the negative side of those. I don't want to, but that's it's true. There's a lot of negative things about the military, but I don't want to focus on the negative. I want to focus on the positive stuff that we do.
Well,
I think it's important.
But let's talk about, before we get into what you do for the community and stuff like that, my goodness, let's talk about that, because it's not necessarily negative. Those are the fun things that we recall when we're talking to other veterans. Being in a formation and standing there for hours during a pass and review, getting up at 2:00 in the morning because you got called at midnight and had to be there for a 2:00 formation. Having that 5:00 formation at the end of the day, when your NCOIC released you and you could have been at home, but they decided to hold that formation anyway. All those things, they drove you nuts.
Yeah, of course.
But at the end of the day, when you think about it, those were our best bonding times, or the mandatory fun days. That's another one.
Yeah.
But, because we had to sit there and we had to embrace the suck together, whether it was standing out there in the rain during that pass and review, or doing that morning formation and just waiting for everybody to show up before they read the urinalysis stuff or whatever the case may be. That's why we were so connected. If we just stayed doing our job all the time, we wouldn't have that regular opportunity to go and mingle with the other people. But we did it. PT formation, all the things.
Yeah, no, I think it's all of it. When I talk to people, that's how we have that instant connection of everybody has gone through the same exact thing. It might not be, the job or, the occupation. Everybody has their own thing going on, but the duty calls and the urinalysis, and it's not a 9-to-5 job. It's, you're on 24/7. There's no overtime pay. You work, 18-hour days. You're going to make the same as the person next to you that's working 2-hour days. Is that that sucks sometimes, but it's just part of it. It's not a big deal. You can't think of too much about it. But yeah, I think I've remembered more times that you were doing just the mundane long days. Those are the days
stuff
that you remember the most.
Let's call it dumb stuff.
Yeah, it's just things that just have to get done, and you have to understand that it's just part of the process. It's not all cupcakes and rainbows all the time. It sucks. It's not fun all the time. But I don't know of a job that is fun 24/7. It's just not possible.
Yeah.
So.
Well, before we get into what you do, Tim made another comment. He wanted to do a plug for an organization that I don't know if it's near you in Texas or not, but he said that Hooves and Horns near Elgin. Tell them Tim sent you. He doesn't live anywhere near Texas, but he obviously knows people just like we all do. But you can get some photos with Ben. They're big supporters of veterans, so
that's awesome.
That's kind of cool. And that could be close by. So maybe you can get some photos with your kiddos.
Yeah, no, that'd be great.
Yep. So now that we've gone through all that stuff, tell us what you're doing now. I mean, obviously, we all struggled through our transition, whether it was a little bit or a lot. I mean, some were more fortunate than others. But what are you doing now?
Yeah. So today I help veterans, and I sit across from veterans. A lot of it is via Zoom or via however that is. I try to do as much live as I possibly can, but I mean, there's people all over the country that need help, and they're going to be transitioning out of the military. So we walk through the processes of what to expect. I think we go through what they talk about in TAPS, but we go a little bit dive deeper into TAPS. We go through their BDD claim. We can help them file their BDD claim, their disability claim, if that's what they choose to do. We talk about their SUI replacement. A lot of people don't realize that your life insurance goes away once you leave that blue line. Once your last day in the military, that SUI goes away. They don't think about, okay, now what do I do? We talk about getting that done, the life insurance side, before they file their claim. And I think that's important because once you've gotten your claim, you've already gone to medical, they've already, diagnosed you with whatever it is, whatever life insurance company is going to look at that and say, hey, you have, X, Y, and Z on your record, whatever it is. So we talk to veterans all the time and say, hey, get that done now before you get out. Make sure that's out of the way. It's just another thing that checks off the box. We talk about that, and we talk about the survivor benefits program and the cost that is attached to the survivor benefits program, the good and the bad about that.
Real quick before you go too deep into that. So the life insurance.
Yep. So
just out of curiosity, and obviously it's going to be different for everyone's situation, but what do you think about insurance as far as life insurance, as far as what you can get on the civilian side versus because they do offer you VGLI, but if you don't pick it within 180 days after you get out, you lose the opportunity to be able to have that. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but I mean, that versus other programs that you can get outside of the military, what is your opinion on it?
Yeah, so my opinion, the VGLI, it's a group life insurance policy. There's good things about it. I would say the negative and the things that they don't talk about is it goes up every 5 years. So, if you're 35 or 40, I was 39 when I retired. So at 40 years old, typically, depending on the company, your life insurance prices can go up. So, with the VGLI, every 5 years, it's going to go up. So we talk about that. We make sure that we cover those topics. It's not, I don't want to say that it's a bad thing, because sometimes if that's your only option, that's your only option.
Sure.
So I will never say, it's a terrible idea. I just want to, I go off on an education basis, right? Show them the numbers, say, hey, this is what you can do. And then I show them, I pull up, whatever website whoever I use, and say, hey, here's the numbers on if you want to do a 1-for-1. If you have a $500,000 life insurance policy while you're active duty, here's a comparison to another one that you can own for say $100.
Okay,
that's good for 30 years. You know what I mean? So they're covered for that. It's a term policy if you want to do that. Yeah, so
I don't really know what happened there. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
I think we blanked out there.
No, it's all good. So yeah, just on the just educating people on what else is out there, and you can own your own policy. You own that policy. There's no attachment to the government. The VGLI it's still attached to the government. Having your own policy, I think, is a good thing. We insure everything else in our entire lives. We don't insure the thing that we can't replace, and that's you. You can't replace you, but you can help your family after you pass. At least pay some of the things off that you need to pay off.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for your point of view on that. Obviously, that's going to be different for everyone. I mean, if you're retired and you have maybe you've got your 100% as well, you might have different requirements than somebody that, is served 5-6 years. And, so everyone's situation is obviously going to be different, but a lot of people don't really know. I mean, it may sound absolutely silly, but people don't even know that they have other options. So, or even what the VGLI is, because when we're on active duty, I mean, you go before deployment, after deployment, when you go to different duty stations, it's required that they just go over this stuff with you on a regular basis. You almost don't have to think because you're on autopilot. So, I mean, it's good to know that there are options after you get out. And by the way, you're not going to have a commander calling you in to go to S1 and have that conversation with them, and then maybe go over to Deers and the office on base to go finish having that conversation. In the civilian world, you kind of have to do that on your own.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, you don't know. I mean, and that's one of the things that I like about what we do now is it's a vet to vet conversation. We have that instant connection already. You don't have to build rapport with them. You've been through the same things. So teaching other veterans how to get out, I think it's super important to talk to another veteran. Talking to an active duty member, they've never transitioned out of the military. So how do they know? You need to talk to somebody that's actually been through the process and been through the struggles and all the mental anguish that, you're going to think about. There's a lot of stress on your body that's going to happen. The fear of the unknown. Okay, what am I going to do when I grow up and get out of the military? 20 years, if you do 5 years or 10 years or 20 years, whatever time frame you do, 30 years, however long it is, you have that connection. You always will have that connection. But there's also a long time after you get out of the military. Most people get out at 40, 50 years old. Well, you live for another 30, 40 years. There's a lot that you can still accomplish. And trying to get people to understand that there's life outside of the military and past the military, and there's a lot more to life than just the military. It was a great part of my life, but that's just one of the chapters in my book.
Right.
I want to keep going with the rest of the chapters. I have kids to raise, and spending time with my family and kids and all the things that I want to do. And I have goals that I have, and I change those goals all the time. Once I accomplish something, I'm like, cool, let's move on to something else. And setting those goals and trying to be as successful as I possibly can.
Right. Now, I think that's awesome that you do that. And I feel like that, well, you say you don't like to go on base, but I think it'd be awesome if you went and talked to the transition offices to see if you could potentially brief these people to let them know that there are options. And these are the conversations, whether it's with you or with somebody else that can help them prepare after they get out of the military. These are things that they don't discuss. I mean, they fill our head full of a bunch of briefings, but they don't tell us that everything drops off the moment you take off the uniform. There are benefits out there, but the VA is not. Well, I've heard sometimes actually they do now. I was going to say the VA don't call you. I mean, they didn't call me. But apparently they're doing that now. When people transition, the VA start calling. I've never heard of that before, but apparently that's something that they've recently started. But otherwise, everything out there that's available, which is is so much. They don't talk about any of that stuff. But let's go back to you. I mean, what other stuff? And we got about 5 to 20 minutes, somewhere in that range, to finish up our conversation here. But what else do you do? And then let's talk about the specific offerings that you'd like to talk about, because I know your contact information is below in the description for wherever people are watching this video.
Really just having those conversations with people. I think we talk about a lot of, like I said, we talk about the things that are in TAPS, but we want to dive deeper into those topics. I think the most important things are, if you're going to file for a disability, let's look at that and see and go through that process and make sure that your claims are everything that you need to do. We talk about the SGLI replacement. We talk about the survivor benefits, and a lot of people don't know the cost of that, and they don't know that there's other options out there as well. Whatever you want to look into. So just having those deep conversations and helping them transition and being a good resource of information. We're kind of a one-stop shop. We want to make sure that people are moving to different parts of the state. We want to go and look up, hey, what are the benefits of that particular state? You're going to retire into, Texas is a big one. I know Texas, but I know, there's other states that have similar opportunities that you can look into and benefit. So let's go over those. Let's look at all that, state by state. And then, we have a SkillBridge opportunity if you want to do that, kind of an internship once you're getting out of the military, to try to ease you into from military to civilian life, figure out what you want to do with your life, and that's our big focus, is educating service members on outside of the military. There's so many opportunities out there. It's almost endless of the opportunities that we have out there. If you seek out the information, you have to educate yourself, and you have to ask the questions. It's a lot like your recruiter. The recruiter's only going to tell you what you need to know to get you through the door. So ask. You have to ask the right questions. You have to be prepared. And I try to figure out, okay, let's talk about the things. What are your concerns about leaving the military? It's just a one-on-one. Everybody's going to be different. There's not like, hey, there's not one set of rules. There's everybody's going to transition differently. Everybody's going to have good and bad of making that transition, and we try to make it as smooth and easy as we possibly can.
Yep. Well, I have one more question for you, and this is the one question that I ask every single guest that comes on my show.
Shoot.
For that one person who is struggling in their moment, whether it's during their transition, before their transition, after their transition, or any point, what's the one piece of advice that you would have for that person?
Great question. I would say to communicate and talk and think about what you're going to be doing. Brainstorm with somebody that has been through the process and learn as much as you possibly can about transitioning out, about your civilian opportunities. If you're going to go to work for a corporation, if you want a regular job, a lot of times you need that steady income. study and get to know and learn as much as you possibly can. Get your resume correct. Have 4 or 5 people look at your resume if that's what you're going to do. But talk to people, communicate. That's a big thing. They don't talk to people enough people to figure out the positives and what's next.
That's true. Yeah,
that's a big thing. People don't communicate. They just make assumptions, and they're like, oh well, I'm just getting out and I don't know what to do. Like,
it's almost like us veterans with our emotions. We don't talk to anybody about them.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
We're like the most emotionally frustrated people on the planet.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. You don't want to talk. You don't want to admit that you're struggling.
That you need help.
I'm guilty of it as well. I don't talk enough to people. I need to reach out to more people, and that's don't get caught in your head. Don't get stuck in the ways that you've been doing things. Maybe change. Have even a slight change of what you've been doing to what you can do, and broaden your horizons. Personal development, reading books is huge. I'm a big proponent of. I don't read as much as I listen to books and listen to podcasts and listen to, just keeping that ties of whatever you're getting into.
Yeah. Well, that's excellent advice. Make sure everybody in the audience here that if you're going through your transition, I don't care who you talk to be quite honest with you. You can talk to me. You can talk to Dan. You can talk to anybody who's willing to help you, whoever you're comfortable with, but talk to somebody. But for the sake of this call, Dan's contact information just so happens to be below in the description.
I love communicating. I love talking to people. I like helping people transition and answering the questions. And I'm very transparent. I'm very upfront. I'm not going to BS you. Is it going to be a struggle? Yeah, could be for a lot of people. There is that struggle. There's a lot of fear and anxiety that people have. But I think the more you communicate, the more you're educated on that transition and getting out of the military, the easier your life is going to be, and you won't have to think about it. You just all right, take a uniform off, put my civilian clothes on, and go about your day and. Whatever job you're going to be getting into. But yeah, communication is a big deal, and educate yourself on all of that stuff.
What I got out of what your advice was the same thing that I used to tell my soldiers on active duty.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about you more than you.
That's right.
So if you really want to be successful outside of the military, then figure out what you got to do and do something about it.
Yeah. And I think it's the one time, we talk about teamwork and teams and all of these things. Transitioning out of the military is the one time you get to be selfish. That's a big deal. You have to be selfish. You have to look, you can't, nobody can advocate for yourself besides yourself. So, you talk about the important thing is advocate for yourself and be selfish. Tell your boss, hey, man, I gotta do my transition stuff. I worked for you for the last 5 years. I need this much time to go and do my own thing. Be selfish about it. It's the only opportunity that you're going to get most of the time to be selfish about taking care of yourself.
Yep. Because
it's gonna go whether you're there or not.
Well, believe it or not, if you're listening to this, what Dan just said is it's not just friendly advice. They're actually supposed to be giving you this option anyway. So take advantage of it. I know they're going to want you to come to work, and they're still going to want you to participate in certain meetings, and they're still going to want you to go to the motor pool, and they're still going to want you to do all the things. But if you don't say that you need to do it, then they're going to just expect that you're going to keep showing up to all the things that you've been showing up to until the one day that you physically can't because you're no longer wearing the uniform. And then you just shot yourself in the foot because you did zero preparation. And I've seen it happen too many times.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a struggle. I mean, a lot of people, they can't let it go. They think that their job is the most important. And I'm not saying your job is not important, but there's other things besides just your job. There's going to be, you're going to have a replacement. There's going to be somebody that's going to backfill you.
Yeah.
So if you don't look after yourself and take that time and opportunity to do that, you're just doing yourself a disservice, and you're putting a lot more pressure on yourself. Take the 2 weeks, take the week, or however much time you need to focus on you and getting the things that you need done, get all those things done and accomplished.
Yep. Well, thanks, Dan. I really appreciate it. And again, everybody, make sure you look below in the description to find Dan's contact information. It is there. I made sure it was there. So
I appreciate that.
And
I appreciate that phone number. Give me a call. Like I said, I love talking to vets. If you need to reach out and talk to somebody, I'm always going to answer my phone. Either text or call or send me an email or jump on whatever it is. However you need to communicate with me. I want to be a resource for people that are. And not just people that are getting out, people, and just anybody, if you want to talk, let's have a conversation. Let's sit down and figure out your life goals and what you want to do.
Yep. Another good guy, another great episode. And we're going to go ahead and conclude here. But before we shut down the broadcast, don't forget to go check out my book, Speak Up, Show Up, Lead on Amazon.com. Thanks again, Dan, for being such a wonderful guest and making yourself a resource to everybody in my audience. And I hope they take advantage of it. But again, thank you. And thank you, everybody, for showing up. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this with everybody that you know. And the most important thing, just like always, we want your opinion on how this conversation went and what you want to hear. So don't forget to leave a comment below to let us know what you think.
Awesome.
Thank you, everybody. Yep. Thanks, Dan. I appreciate you coming on here. I really do appreciate it. And thank you, everybody out there for watching.
All right. Have a good one.